Hello everyone, and welcome to Stardate 20x6 Map 5. This beginning section is very simple. Just alert the Map05 and then get the ammo. It'll also alert the Hell Knights, and then you can go behind the switch because the Map05 will have moved. And this secondary area, which is the main hub of the map. You can just lure all the Hell Knights and Barons over here before firing, because when you fire, since I grabbed that Soul Sphere, a Cyber will teleport in. It takes a bit for all of them to get in here, but you can just use Strafe, and then run over here, rocket these two chain gunners, and kill the imps guarding this area. Now the Cyber Demon will have teleported in, and you can start an infight. Some special things about this run, actually. This is attempt number 5, because I did a lot of practicing on this map. I'll go into that a bit later. However, something I will say now is that pretty much every fight in this map is fair. Except for one, I guess, which is a bit luck-based, but it's not really luck-based on whether you die, it's more luck-based on how much damage you take. We'll get to that later. Now about this run itself. This is one of the runs where everything goes wrong, like literally everything goes wrong. And you know what that means? That means that it's exciting to watch for the audience, that being you. So, I hope you enjoy, because I think you're more likely to this time. Now that Archvile down there, it does a really good job of resurrecting a bunch of enemies, to the point which something unexpected happens. But I'll just speed things up a little bit, because I'm standing here for a bit. I want to kill everything here that's shooting at me, specifically those chain gunners, because I'll have to use this space to back into later on. And by later on, I mean not too much later. It won't be long. When you open this door, you get 4 enemies of a certain distinction, which casual doomers are not particularly amiable towards, I would say. Fortunately, those guys are pretty easy to deal with, most of the time. I don't think I've ever died there during attempts, although most of the times I died were because I got ridiculously screwed over somehow, or made some stupid mistake. Now, here is an irregularity. The Cyber Demon is dead. That Archvile really did a whole lot of resurrecting, because it means that these Barons are alive, which means I have to take them down Hell Revealed style. Whenever something goes wrong in this map, you can just fall back on shells if it has to do with ammo, because, as you can see, there is not a shortage of shells on this map. Something else odd that happens, which usually doesn't, is one of the Revenants got killed already. Luckily for me, it's the Revenant I want to get killed first, because of those 3 Revenants, when one of them dies, the first one specifically, an Archvile will replace that first Revenant to fall. And I want it to be the one on this side, so I can, well, just do this. Something else I should mention about this map, which I really like actually, is that once you get the opening done, you can pretty much do everything in any order you like. Well, even without getting the opening done, you can do that. You just have to be a bit more careful. So I decide to go down here and eliminate these chain gunners before they can pose any sort of threat. And when you walk down the stairs, you have this pain elemental which comes in, accompanied by 2 Hell Knights. Now, with every single fight in this particular room, you can just use this staircase to screw everything up for the enemies. You'd think that Rubik's would teleport in something to block you from doing this so easily, but I guess not. Well, it was pretty much Rubik's early years, so things were a bit less refined. Another thing you'll see in this map, a lack of refinement in a certain bit. Now, when you hit that switch, it does 2 things. It teleports in this Archvile, and it allows an Archvile to teleport in onto the Revenant ledge. It's best to just leave the Revenant alive until the Archvile is dead, so that you both don't waste your ammo, and the Archvile has pretty much nowhere to move to dodge your rockets. It cannot escape. The plasma gun will be very useful in one of the coming areas. But first I want to take down these snipers, because they can be problematic later when I try and exit this area. That area being probably the, well, it's the luck-based encounter I was talking about. The one where I said that you're probably gonna survive every time, but how much damage you take is unpredictable. In one of my attempts, the only other of my 5 attempts that made it to the end fight of this map, I managed to spare a Megasphere. I didn't take enough damage to need to use a Megasphere. They give you plenty of ammo for this fight, so it shouldn't matter if you waste all of your ammo beforehand. But I've got a strategy for this fight which I stole from someone. That person being Touchdown, although I don't think he'll mind. Essentially, if you just stand in this doorway, you can fire upon the Cacodemons with, I guess, impunity, if that's what that word means. The Cacodemons on the sides can't see you, so that means they won't attack you. Although, for some reason, they approached really quickly this time. I should have waited longer, I think. And unfortunately, this screws me over quite a bit, because it means that I've got to waste a bunch of plasma ammo. And health. Health is more important, because without it you cannot exist. Now this part of the encounter is most definitely the hardest part, because you're most likely to die during it by being overrun by Cacodemons. Now that it's just a few stragglers left, I'll speed things up, because one of these stragglers is a right pain in the ass, as the British would say. Now, the second stage of this fight. Once again, the doorway is great for hiding. You'll be fighting some 6 pain elementals. Essentially what I do is hide in the doorway and hold everything off until all the pain elementals gather around you, and then you can start tearing them down. The pain elementals, unfortunately, will infight with their children, which is probably child abuse, I would say. Someone call Child Protective Services on them, I guess, is something you could do, assuming that exists in the Doom universe. But yeah, their pain elementals are abusive parents, so work around that, so you can use it to your advantage as these family quarrels ensue. Unfortunately, it also means that a whole lot of lost souls got spawned. And that also means that, yet again, I get down to low health. Lucky number 13. Something you may have noticed from the start of this video is that this map is not purple anymore, it is orange. If you would like to know why I chose orange this time, it's because when I asked a couple people what colors they wanted to see, El Inferno, the person who made Dance on the Water, said orange. And he also asked for Map 5, so orange is Map 5. There you have it. I'm thinking of doing something similar if I ever do Stardate 20x6, where I'll just ask the audience, after each video, what color they want the next map to be. Now that I have more health and have killed a lot of enemies that were just clogging up the spawn area, it's time for me to go back and kill a lost soul. And do nothing else. Now here's one of the problems with this map. This secret is actually broken. The secret I just went into. The problem with that secret is very simple. It's an oversight. Essentially, there are 3 secret sectors in there. There's the floor itself, there's that rim around the trench in the floor that's for decoration, and then there's the trench itself. Unfortunately though, since you can't touch the floor of the trench because it's like 1,000 map units down, it is impossible to get that final secret. So 100% secrets for this level in UVMax is actually 5 out of 6. And this fight shouldn't be much of a problem unless you get really unlucky like I did in one of my practice attempts. Essentially, you just want to blast one of the archviles with the rocket launcher, and then use the SSG to clear out some Hell Knights and Barons, as well as the other archvile, which you can do some rocketing. Although it's really up to you if you're the one running the map. Do whatever you like. Up here we've got some enemies, but if you pre-fire rockets, then their attempts to kill you will be in vain. Now, this area is nice. It's pretty much a death trap, unless you've got the invulnerability, or are quick with the plasma gun. You want to plasma these chain gunner snipers, otherwise they'll cut you down when you regain, I guess, mortality. Usually I've got a lot more plasma, but I got unlucky and had to waste it all in the Cacodemon fight. So I just used rockets instead. And eventually you can just retreat and kill everything using this door. This fight isn't too difficult. In fact, you can pretty easily do it without taking any damage at all. It really just comes down to whether or not you can dodge lost souls and lots of enemies. You want to kill one side of the helmets as quickly as you can with the rocket launcher, and then focus on the rest. That way you can avoid getting cornered, as well as give yourself a safer space within the arena. Pre-firing rockets isn't as easy with this area, but if you can, then that's just all the better for you, because you can kill pain elementals quickly. And that's something you always want to happen. Although, unfortunately, it's another dose of hell revealed for you, and for me, so I'll just speed it up a bit. When you hit the final switch, you get some archviles. Rockets are a quick solution to this problem, as they are for this final archvile, which gets teleported in when you approach the red key. Unfortunately, I'm out of bullets here, so I just have to shoot it with a super shotgun, since you can't reach it with your fist as far as I can tell. The next fight, which I'm going to go to, is down here. But I decide to backtrack for armor. This is one of the more difficult fights in the map, but it can be dismantled relatively quickly if you know what you're doing. Dodging on this floor is more difficult than it looks because the floor is uneven. See how the center is lower down than the rest? That's why I'm more sticking to the sides, except for right now. You've got an interesting use of a spider mastermind. Instead of having a cyber demon in the middle, the spider mastermind acts as the in-fight machine. I'm put into a difficult situation here, so I just run away. Running away from your problems actually works in this fight, so why not do it? If you can get into these two alcoves, you should pretty much be able to ward off anything. Although, you want to make sure that some enemies are still alive. That way you can safely teleport into the spider mastermind, telefragging and killing it. Sometimes, if the spider mastermind is in one of the corners, you will not telefrag it, so make sure it's in the center before going through that secret teleporter. This switch lowers the yellow key, as well as allows all these guys to come in. Although I'm not sure whether that switch allows them to come in, or they're just allowed to come in by your presence. It doesn't really matter. If you're up there, your only reason to be up there is to hit that switch. Because the yellow key is the key that opens the exits. This is another example of just being able to use this staircase to bottleneck everything and kill it easily. However, if you're not careful, you can get blindsided by the angle of the stairs and have to deal with a bunch of fireballs in your face, which isn't the most pleasant sensation, I would assure you. I'm luring these barons outside that room because there's gonna be 2 archviles that teleport in. Well, not teleport in, they just get released. And of course, archviles resurrecting barons is never a good thing. It's just a waste of ammunition. This pain elemental can be easily dispatched without having to deal with any children. You just walk into it. I would suggest not letting these archviles leave the arena if you've set things up the way I did, because it means that they can't resurrect anything. And now that the kill count is 285, and the secret count 5 out of 6, that means that it's time for the final fight. The final fight is actually really nice. When I first played the fight, I was like, how can I possibly find a consistent strategy for this? However, it's not really that. That's not really the problem. The strategy isn't so much the problem as much as I just needed to practice the fight. Although the strategy is part of it. But as I practiced this fight, I became way more consistent at it. To the point where I don't have to release the Cyber Demon to kill all the Revenants. Although that might just make things even more difficult. But who cares? And that's it for the final screw-up moment. Getting down to 12 health in the final fight is nice and climactic. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still release the Cyber Demon to increase the tension. You never know when you can get hit by a Cyber Demon stray missile. At this point, you should just try and use strafe everything to death. Try not to change direction of movement, except when you're outside of the line of sight of Cyber Demon. Because that means that you can't get caught on the angle of your parabola. And in the process get rocketed easily. I'm sure you know what I mean. And so it ends. I spin around in celebration because I expected this map to take more tries. However, it didn't. Now, I've got good news for people who like watching these. The next 3 maps that I will be doing are Map 6 of this WOD, Map 7 of this WOD, and Swim with the Whales Map 3. And all of those maps are very long and difficult. So you'll get, I guess, a hell of a ride, if I want to call it that. I most certainly will be. So, in the comments, assuming you've made it this far, guess what color the next 2 maps will be. If you guess correctly, then excellent. You get, I guess, points. Meaningless points that have no real world value. But it feels nice to have points, doesn't it? Either way, I'll see you in the next map, Violets.